I once again warmly welcome all dear participants to today's webinar on Machine Learning Simplified. Another upcoming technology, I would say, in the present time is machine learning, because this is one technology which has not just affected our lives, it has affected almost all spheres of human endeavor in the present time. So today we will learn about the basics of this technology, how it is being applied in different endeavors of human domain by none other than industry expert Mr. Deepak Goyal, Senior Director, Cape Gemini. He would be joining us soon. And as per schedule, sharp at 6 p.m., we shall be beginning with today's webinar. So a very warm welcome to all dear participants. I once again request all participants, kindly ensure whatever device you are connected with us through for today's webinar, you should be able to access the chat window on the same. Chat window is important mechanism due for using which we shall be communicating during this webinar. So any questions you have from expert for today's session, you can keep writing on the chat window. I shall be facilitating you by asking them to the expert at the end of the session. And further, a certificate of feedback form link for your certificate of participation generation for today's webinar will be shared with all the participants at the end of this session only through the WebEx room chat link. So the chat link is important. This event shall also be live streamed on our official YouTube channel, BVI Camp New Delhi. But that live streaming is only for knowledge dissemination purposes. So the feedback form link or any other link shall not be shared on that particular channel. The participants who shall be attending this particular webinar from our YouTube channel will not be given any kind of certificate of participation. So in case any of your friends, any of your colleagues plan to join, but from the YouTube channel, kindly request them to join through this official WebEx room. The room is still open and they can easily join through the WebEx room. I once again welcome all the participants who have just joined us today for this webinar on Machine Learning Simplified. So we are back today with another webinar on another upcoming technology. Our next webinar, dear participants, is planned on 19th of Feb. And we shall be presenting before you another upcoming technology. To register for all our upcoming webinars, you can register yourself at our site. You will be informed of all our upcoming webinars, as well as you will be able to register yourself for the same, so that you get a reminder for each webinar. So I have just shared the link of our website where you can register for all our upcoming webinars. I warmly welcome all the participants who have just joined us for today's webinar. But I again request all the dear participants, kindly ensure whatever device you are connected with us through for today's webinar, you should be able to access the chat window on the same. The chat window is important because it is only through this chat window that we shall be communicating with you during this webinar. And at the end of the webinar, we shall be sharing a feedback form link with all the participants. The feedback form link is very important, dear participants, because at the end of this webinar, you can generate a certificate of participation for yourself for this particular webinar if you fill the feedback form. So please fill the feedback form carefully, because any mistakes you make while filling in the feedback form, the same mistakes would automatically be reflected in your certificate of participation. So please fill in the feedback form carefully. Your name spellings, your institution name. Now, in case your institution, your affiliating university name is long, please remember that in certificate, there is only space of one line where the name has to come. So in case your university name, your institution name is quite long, you can instead even enter, I would say, the short form or the abbreviation of your institute, if you know that the complete name will not be reflected into one line of the certificate. But please fill the feedback form very carefully and submit it. As soon as you submit the feedback form, our automated system is so robust that within a matter of a few minutes, that means at a max 5 minutes, you shall be receiving your certificate of participation right in your inbox. But yes, submitted the certificate of participation, to get the certificate of participation, it is necessary for you to submit the feedback form. Good evening, Deepak sir. Welcome to the webinar.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening.
Thank you so much, sir. Just give me a minute. We'll just be giving you the sharing rights. Uttam sir, can we make Deepak sir the presenter? Sir, you are the presenter now. So you can just check by sharing your PPT.
Yeah, just give me a minute. I'll do that.
Yes, sir. Sure.
Is the audio okay? Do I need a headphone or anything like that?
The audio is perfectly fine.
Okay. Thank you.
A very good evening to all panelists and participants. I once again welcome you all to today's webinar on Machine Learning Simplified. And what wonderful to learn about this machine learning technology, its applications in the present time, by none other than Mr. Deepak Goel from Cape Gemini. Sir has already joined us, and as per schedule, sharp at 6 p.m., we shall be starting with today's webinar. So dear participants, kindly ensure that all your colleagues and friends who plan to join today's webinar, they should join this WebEx room. I repeat again, this webinar shall also be live streamed on our official YouTube channel, BVI Camp New Delhi. But that live streaming is only for knowledge dissemination purposes. So feedback link shall only be shared in the WebEx room chat window. So kindly request all your colleagues and friends to join the WebEx room itself, so that at the end of the session, they can even generate their certificate of participation. Yes, sir, I can see the slide.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
I'll just
sir.
stop it now.
Yes, you can stop it now. We'll be starting at 6. So meanwhile, I'll welcome all the participants, because participants are still joining in. A very warm, once again, I would welcome all the participants. A very warm welcome to all the panelists and participants who have just joined us. I welcome you all to today's webinar on Machine Learning Simplified. Our expert for today's session, Mr. Deepak Goel from Cape Gemini, has already joined us. Senior Director, Cape Gemini, is already there with us. As per schedule, we shall be starting with today's session sharp at 6 p.m. So meanwhile, dear participants, kindly ensure whatever device you are connected with us through for today's webinar, you should be able to access the chat window on the same. I repeat, chat window is important because it is only through the chat window that we shall be communicating with all of you during this webinar. So any questions you have from the expert of today's session, you can keep writing them in the chat window. At the end of the session, I shall be sharing those questions with our expert, and he shall be answering all of them. Further, a feedback form link for your certificate of participation generation shall be shared with all the participants in the feedback window at the end of the session. You can fill in the feedback form and submit it within a matter of a few minutes. At a maximum, I would say 5 minutes, your certificate of participation would be generated. and it will be mailed to your inbox that you have shared with us in the feedback form. I request all the participants, once the session completes, this room gets transformed into a call center. We shall be there with you, and the feedback form link shall be active till 8:30 p.m. So kindly do not leave this room till the point of time you do not receive your certificate of participation in your inbox. If after submission of the feedback form, you do not receive your certificate of participation in your inbox after 5 minutes, you can check your spam folder also. It might be possible that for the first time, your certificate of participation would be shared in the spam folder. So you can mark it as not spam, so that from next webinar onwards, you receive the certificate of participation right into your inbox. And still, if you cannot find your certificate of participation, you can share your email ID with all the panelists in the chat window. We shall be there with you to help you out with the same. Live recording of this complete event will be, this event will be live streamed on our official YouTube channel, BVI Camp New Delhi. And at the end of the session, recording of this event for, again, knowledge dissemination purposes of all our attendees will again be hosted on our official YouTube channel, BVI Camp New Delhi. So you can subscribe to our official YouTube channel to get recording of all our events. So I will be sharing the details of our official YouTube channel also in the chat window, so that the participants can subscribe to it. I once again welcome all the participants and panelists who have just joined us today for this webinar on Machine Learning Simplified. Our expert, Mr. Deepak Goyal, Senior Director, Cape Gemini, has already joined us, and within a matter of few minutes, as per schedule, sharp at 6 p.m., we shall be starting with today's webinar. So dear participants, I request all of you, kindly ensure that whatever device you are connected with, you are able to access the chat window. Good evening, sir. Welcome to the webinar. Dear participants, Professor M.N. Huda, Director, Bharati Vidyapeeth Institute of Computer Applications and Management, has also joined us. Sir, welcome to the webinar. Sir, you are on mute. Sir, I can't hear you.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes. Clearly?
Yes, sir. Absolutely clearly.
Oh, so good evening to everyone.
Good evening, sir. So Deepak sir has also joined us.
Great, great.
Hi, good evening, sir.
Oh, good evening, Mr. Deepak. How are you?
Yeah, absolutely great.
So welcome you for the program, right?
Yeah.
I also was there somewhere else, and I was rushing back today that at least today I should reach in time. But fortunately, I reached at time because traffic in on Delhi roads are highly uncertain.
Yes, sir.
And it become most of the time difficult to apply machine learning there because of uncertainty.
I was about to say that, but participants would think the the session already started.
We are technical people keep on applying, but so much of uncertainty comes in realistic situation that all your predictions go wrong. Anyway, so thank you so much for having joined and being part of this webinar series, which is under IEEE Delhi section and Bharati Vidyapith.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Right, please.
Dear participants, Professor Subramaniam Krishnamurthy sir has also joined us. Good evening, sir. Welcome to the webinar.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, sir. I once again welcome all the participants who have just joined us for today's webinar on Machine Learning Simplified. Machine learning, I would say, is another important technology which is affecting almost all spheres of human endeavor in the present times, dear participants. So who better to know about how machine learning is being applied nowadays? What is machine learning? By none other than industry expert Mr. Deepak Goyal, Senior Director, Cape Gemini. Sir has already joined us, and within a few minutes from now, sharp at 6 p.m., we shall be beginning with today's session. Meanwhile, I request all the participants who have just joined us, please ensure, dear participants, whatever device you are connected with us through for today's webinar, you should be able to access the chat window on your device. The chat window appears as a bubble icon. You can click on that, write in your affiliation and detail to ensure that you are able to access the chat window. Any questions you have from the expert of today's session during the session, you can keep writing the same on the chat window. I shall be communicating the same with our expert at the end of the session. A feedback link for certificate of participation generation for today's session shall again be shared by all our WebEx with all our WebEx room participants at the end of today's session. So dear participants, kindly ensure whatever device you are connected with, you are able to access the chat window on the same in order to avoid any kind of last minute rush or last minute hurry. So I request you all once again, especially the participants who have just joined, the participants who are already there with us, I hope they have already checked their chat window. We have received a number of messages, but the participants who have just joined us, please ensure that whatever device you are connected with us through, you can access the chat window on the same. Within a few minutes from now, we shall be beginning with today's session. A very good evening, and once again, a very warm welcome to all dear participants who have just joined us for today's webinar. I welcome you all to today's session. This session shall also be live streamed on our official YouTube channel, BVI Cam New Delhi. But I repeat, the live streaming is only for knowledge dissemination purposes. So no feedback form link shall be shared across any other channel except this WebEx room at the end of the session. So in case any of your participants, any of your friends plan to join through the YouTube link, because once the session starts, the WebEx room shall be logged. So please request them to join in quickly. The room is yet open. They can all join in quickly, and at the end of the session, they can have a certificate of participation for themselves for today's session. So I once again welcome all dear participants to today's webinar on Machine Learning Simplified. Our next webinar in our official webinar series, and we have already closed half century. We are moving forward towards further series. Our next webinar is planned on 19th of February. Details are available on our official site. I have already shared link for the same. Any of the participants who have just joined and they are new, they are requested to kindly visit our website and register themselves for our upcoming webinars also. Every week, dear participants, we hold webinars on different new technologies of the present times. And this is only for knowledge dissemination amongst our participants so that you all can grow your knowledge, you all can work in your areas of interest, and you all can expand your knowledge. Some participants are requesting for the website. I'm once again sharing the website link in our chat window. I request all the participants who are new to our webinars, warm welcome to all of you. And you can just click on this website and register for our upcoming webinars. I have already shared the link for the same in the chat window. New participants, kindly click on the same and register for all our upcoming webinars. In a few seconds from now, we shall be starting with today's webinar. Today's webinar is on Machine Learning Simplified by none other than Mr. Deepak Goyal, industry expert and senior director from Cape Gemini. Good evening, Subrata sir. Welcome to the webinar. Sir, you are on mute.
Now I am okay.
Yes,
Subrata
sir.
sir, good evening.
Good evening. Are you out?
Today, your today's time must have been very hectic. Sir?
वो खत्म हो गया?
जी sir, वो खत्म हो गया और I was sitting in office while doing that. So now by the time
I could
today,
see
I
आपने
reached home.
फोटो ऑफ कर लिया था, लेकिन पता तो चल रहा है इसके पीछे से कोई क्या कहेंगे कुछ कलाकार तो बैठे हैं, कुछ ना कुछ कर रहे हैं.
मल्टीटास्किंग है सर, ऑनलाइन ने लोगों को मल्टीटास्किंग बना दिया है.
It is already 6 dear participants. We will now be starting with a webinar. So with your permissions, sir, can I start with the webinar today?
Oh yes, please start.
Thank you, sir. A very good evening to all distinguished panelists and participants. Bharati Vidyapeeth Institute of Computer Applications and Management, BVI CAM, in association with Computer Science Chapter of IEEE Delhi Section, Consultants Network Affinity CNA Group of IEEE Delhi Section, Life Member Affinity LMA Group of IEEE Delhi Section, Inter-Society Relations IRS Standing Committee of IEEE Delhi Section, Industry Relations and Site Standing Committees of IEEE Delhi Section, with the Associations of Computer Society of India, SAFA Society, ISTE Delhi Section, and IETE Delhi Center, welcomes you all today to this webinar on Machine Learning Simplified. According to Emmy Stapleton, we are entering a new world. The technologies of machine learning, speech recognition, and natural language understanding are reaching a nexus of capability. The end result is that we will soon have artificially intelligent assistants to help us in every aspect of our life. This quote depicts the current world scenario because we already have intelligent assistants to assist us in almost, I would say, all spheres of human endeavor. So, to know this current statistics of the present world, the webinar today is aimed at highlighting the importance and role of machine learning in data science. The basic difference between artificial intelligence and machine learning shall also be discussed and clarified, along with highlighting the current trends and the adoption of machine learning algorithms in solving specific business problems. Before starting, I will first take this opportunity to welcome amongst us our distinguished panelists for the day. We are privileged to have amongst us a galaxy of experts. I would first welcome Professor Subrata Mukhopadhyay, Chairperson, Consultants Network Affinity, CNA Group, and former Chairperson of IEEE Delhi Section. I would now request Professor Subrata Mukhopadhyay, sir, to commence the session with his welcome address.
Thank you, Ritika. So for and on behalf of IEEE Delhi Section, I welcome you all to today's webinar on Machine Learning Simplified. Earlier, we had a number of occasions to be a part of webinars on artificial intelligence and machine learning, in short, AI/ML, as delivered by distinguished speakers. Today, let us listen further. Already, Ritika has given little insight to what is expected. Yes, in simple terms, machine learning is definitely a type of artificial intelligence, if we can call so, that allows software applications to become more accurate at predicting outcomes without being explicitly programmed to do so. The concerned algorithms use available past or historical data maybe projected also, as input based on which it predicts new output values. Its usage includes, but not limited to, fraud detection, spam filtering, malware threat detection, business process automation, predictive maintenance, and what's not, actually everything on the earth possibly. Machine learning is important because it gives enterprises, if you see the business world, a view of trends in customer behavior pattern vis-a-vis business operational systems, and consequently supports further development of new products. It's a feedback going there in a systematic way. Facebook, Google, Uber, etc. make machine learning a central part of their operations, as we very closely observe. It has become a significant competitive differentiator for these companies. Classical machine learning is often categorized by how an algorithm learns to become more accurate in its predictions. In fact, it may be considered as a measure of its success in application. In practice, four basic approaches may be thought of in this context, such as supervised learning, unsupervised learning, then somewhere in between as semi-supervised learning, and reinforcement learning, depending upon field of usage chosen by the data scientist for the application of the humankind. With these words, I welcome you again, the attendees, to take full advantage of attending this webinar of the day. Over to Ritika to continue, please.
Thank you, sir. I would now request Professor M.N. Huda, sir, Director, Bharati Vidyapeeth's Institute of Computer Applications and Management, BVI CAM, to address the participants with his inspiring words.
Good evening, one and all. Am I audible, Dr. Ritika?
Yes, sir.
Great. And at the outset, let me first welcome my valued speaker, Mr. Deepak, today, who out of his all preoccupied and busy schedule, you can imagine industry people, and that too during this time when most of the things are online, even customers are interacting online, how busy the schedule of industry experts are. Despite all these engagements, he is with us and to share his experiences, his learning with all of us and to inspire us about the machine learning. I also take this opportunity to welcome Subrata sir, Professor Krishnamurthy, and many other my friends from various professional societies, collaborating organizations, and their presence is not only an encouragement to all of us, but is a kind of value addition to this program. And very special thanks to Subrata sir, who despite all his engagements, make it a point to join it. That is a kind of passion who keeps us inspiring and motivating for organizing many programs. My dear friends who have joined from all parts of the country and abroad, this is 61st webinar of IEEE Bharati Vidyapeeth webinar series, which is being organized almost every week, in some time maybe alternate week, etc., but otherwise almost every week, week after week, and that was started in June 2020 in the backdrop of COVID-19. My dear friends, this is the time to understand that with which we are going and how machine learning can help us. That's how the topic has been kept. And topic is also very simple. Machine learning to be simplified. So simple, right? So this COVID taught us everything. And probably right, the way Subrata sir was explaining, technology people, engineering sciences, and the medical people, they can't live in coming days. They can't live practically in coming days without machine learning. So that much enormous application machine learning is going to have. But not only the engineering sciences or the technology people who are going to have the machine learning, rather many other associated domains which cannot remain in isolation without machine learning. And to be precise with you, right in 2006, the media services provider Netflix, which was not so popular at that time, but now many of you must be using Netflix, used machine learning as extensively for the first ever prize launch known as Netflix Prize. In 2010, the Wall Street Journal wrote that the firm Rebellion Research and their use of the machine learning is going to predict the entire financial crisis worldwide. That's a kind of versatility of the machine learning. Not at one side the technology people are using, rather at the other side the economics and the financial people are also using it as a tool to understand that what and in which way the crisis is going to happen. In 2012, Sun Microsystem co-founder Mr. Vinod Khosla said that 80% of the medical doctor's job would be lost in next 2 decades to be if they are not automating with the help of the machine learning, because entire medical domain is going to switch to the diagnostic softwares. And that's how I keep on saying that the time are due now, that the advanced researches in machine learning and coupled with the deep learning, of course, is going to make every one of us the CEO of our own health, the chief executive officer of our own health. And we might need to not to go to any doctor for those kind of purposes. My dear friends, in 2014, it was reported that machine learning algorithm had been applied in the field of artificial intelligence in the field of drug discovery.
I think, sir, connection is weak. I apologize, dear participants. I think there has been a technical glitch due to
That is
which,
how it is happening.
yes,
Hello?
Yes, come back.
sir,
Yeah.
your connection was lost in between. I suppose there is a technical glitch at sir's end because the connection is being lost. Meanwhile, while sir rejoins, I would now welcome amongst us our expert speaker for today, Mr. Deepak Goyal, Senior Director, Cape
Hello?
Gemini.
Yeah, am I audible, Dr. Ritika?
Yes, sir. Now you are audible. There was
I've switched off my video. I've switched off my video.
Yes,
Probably
sir.
the network bandwidth is not supporting. So, my dear friends, in 2014, it was reported that machine learning algorithm had been applied in the field of art history to study the fine art painting. In 2020, it was reported that the machine learning is the kind of maximum utilized technology for the purpose of the cure to be understood and cure to be utilized for the purpose of COVID-19. Machine learning is also being used for the purpose of green behavior of human being. Today's generation is smartphone which we are carrying is also using machine learning. So such a huge versatile application of machine learning. That's how this topic has been kept, and that's how I keep on saying कि ये टेक्नोलॉजी हमें पता नहीं कितने और इम्तिहान से गुजारेगा, और इसलिए मैं कहता हूं कि सितारों से आगे जहां और भी हैं, अभी टेक्नोलॉजी के इम्तिहान और भी हैं, और अपनी नई जनरेशन रिसर्चर्स के लिए ये है कि ये जो हमारे और आपके बीच टेक्नोलॉजी है, हमें नई नई टेक्नोलॉजियों को आजमाना है, हमें नई नई टेक्नोलॉजियों को आजमाना है, पत्थरों पे गुलाब खिलाना है। देखिए इम्पॉसिबल चीजें टेक्नोलॉजी करके हमारे सामने दिखाती है, तो पत्थरों पे गुलाब खिलाना है एंड आंधियों में चिराग जलाना है, ये इस टेक्नोलॉजी का इम्तिहान है जिस टेक्नोलॉजी के लिए हमने मिस्टर दीपक गोयल जी को इनवाइट किया है. सो लेट्स लर्न फ्रॉम हिम, लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड फ्रॉम हिम, लेट्स understand that how industry perceives the application of the machine learning. Thank you so much for having joined us to this particular webinar. Joining and waiting first for these webinars and joining this webinar out of the busy schedule is a matter of great encouragement and motivation to all we organizers. And we wish you stay safe, stay healthy, stay vibrant, keep learning despite disruptions, because today only I was talking to a few people while sitting in the office and came to know that people are predicting, again using machine learning, the models are predicting that a fourth wave of COVID is coming by beginning of April, and that is going to be at least 4 times more disastrous than the wave 2. Probably this will shake the people, the human being and the mankind on this earth. So I always wish ki, oh God, let's forgive us and allow us that at least we should maintain our normal life on this earth. And that's how I keep on saying governments, for them, of course, for their own reasons, for economic purposes, have opened everything. We are moving, we are rushing to the opened situation, but let's be careful. And that's how I say that ये कोरोना का जमाना है, न यूं मचल के चलो, ये कोरोना का जमाना है, न यूं मचल के चलो, लगी है पैरों में पैंडेमिक की हथकड़ी। अभी कहाँ सब खत्म हो गई है, हाथों में हथकड़ी है, पैरों में बेरियां हैं जो कोविड और कोरोना और पैंडेमिक की लगी हुई है। पता नहीं अल्फा बीटा गामा कितने और वेरिएंट्स आने हैं। सो अभी अभी कोरोना का जमाना है, न यूं मचल के चलो, लगी है पैरों में कोविड की बेरियां, जरा संभल के चलो। विश यू ऑल द बेस्ट, गॉड ब्लेस यू ऑल। थैंक यू सो मच। ओवर टू यू डॉक्टर रितिका।
Thank you, sir. I would now welcome amongst us our expert speaker for today. Mr. Deepak Goyal is a senior director with Cape Gemini. Working with with in this field over 2 decades of experience, Deepak sir has worked as a product manager as well as a technical delivery leader. He has over 22 plus years of experience in the software industry across various domains, like with versatility of roles like pre-sales, business development, product management, program management, business operations, tendering, and delivery management. With strong technical management background of research and development spread across various domains and industries like enterprise solutions, hybrid cloud, telecommunication, smart energy industry, industrial automation, complex event processing, machine learning, and big data. Deepak sir has always proven his ability to manage complex projects in dynamic, fast changing environments using both waterfall as well as agile processes. He has an extensive experience in technical design, pre sales, proposal writing, estimation, negotiations, project, and people management. With this wide experience in the industry, I welcome you today to this session, sir, and I would now request you to kindly enlighten the House. Over to you, Deepak, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this introduction. In fact, I don't know where it came from. So thank you for such an elaborate introduction. So what I'll do today, and I have been part of these webinars for many, I mean, I have attended many webinars. I've been part of, presenting some other topics earlier also. So the passion that I see here, I mean, it is tremendous. Dr. Huda, Dr. Subrata, and you, Dr. Ritika, and thank you for, making this happen. So just starting here, what I will today do, yeah, sorry. So what I'll today do is,
Deepak sir, I think there is a technical lag in between. You can switch off your camera for the time being.
the technology area, right? I'll just try to, and that is why, the topic today is simplifying machine learning. I mean, we will just see what exactly it is. There are so many misnomers, so many things that we possibly don't understand it correctly. We will try to refine and revisit, what we have seen so far. Right, in case, of course, it's needed, there are a lot of jargons that would come in, and we will see if it needs more explanation. But I'll try to keep it in an area where it would motivate and possibly make students or researchers in this area to pursue this as a career, pursue this as a technology that is so widely spread out and so on. Right, so that's the main intent, not to go into a lot of, because in 1 hour you cannot actually do justice to the whole topic here, but we'll see, if we are able to at least scratch the surface here. So welcome here. It's not moving, yeah. So whenever you actually hear about machine learning, you see a lot of jargons and a lot of noise. You might also see some areas which would actually encourage you that, yeah, things would change. You would get a lot of power from computers in terms of thinking like humans, thinking much more than what humans can do, learning on their own, and so on. So you would have one set of people who are gung-ho about all this. Then there are other set of people who would actually think that, okay, what would happen? Maybe the jobs would be lost, or there would be more frauds being done online, or I mean, every technology would have a different different shadow area. Not that it is not, I mean, this technology also carries a lot of areas where we have to take care of, right? knowingly or unknowingly. And there's one area in which we'll touch upon is the bias in machine learning, right? So because all this, the data that you actually use to make computers more aware of the situation or make it more intelligent, I mean, that is the whole, the whole powerhouse. The data that you get into and give to the computers, that's the whole powerhouse. And if your data itself has a lot of bias, some things which is not correct, and maybe the things that are changing doesn't get reflected, or it doesn't have the full representation, we will see how it actually creates issues as well, right? So we'll have to take care of, I mean, it is not simple straightforward process like conventional programming, where you have a set of inputs and you know what to do, you know the rules, and you have a set of output, right? So you would see that with various sets of data in different ecosystems, in different environments, the same algorithm, the same program would work differently, would give you different results. So that's the basic, and we should appreciate all these areas, because then we would appreciate how things are working, what exactly it is, and where it is more useful, what we need to take care, and so on. So I'll just keep it very simple here. It is not an industry or market trend centric talk. We can do it, sometime later, but it's just about, simplifying the things and making sure that we understand it. So what we'll do today, we will talk about artificial intelligence. Not much in depth of artificial intelligence, but we'll talk about machine learning. We'll talk about a little bit on deep learning. We'll also see how we should get started, right? What are the available resources that we have online, offline, where we should actually start from, if there are people who want to pursue career into this, where exactly you should target on, what are the use cases, and so on. Of course, how does it help you, right? And here also we will see, as I was saying, the bias and something to take care of as we are actually working on this technology, and some use cases, the industry-wide use cases, applications of it. Things are changing, right? As we speak, there are more use cases that are coming up. As we speak, there are more areas that are being explored and more technology advancement that is happening. But still, what we are aware of, it will give a perspective. So, as we see, it is a topic, artificial intelligence or machine learning. You will always, probably, you'll visualize areas like, facial recognition, right? Or maybe areas like a computer playing chess, right? And we all know in 1997 when, IBM Deep Blue has actually, beaten Gary Kasparov, right? That was the tipping point where things were at a different level. We had a lot of expectations from artificial intelligence and machine learning. So whenever we think of our machine learning, all these use cases come in, and then use cases like driverless car or connected car. I mean, not connected car, but cars which can drive on its own, which can see, visualize, and you don't need anybody to control. Or maybe in medical field, even diagnosing tumors, diagnosing different ailments, just using the pictures and so on and so forth. I mean, these are areas which are well in advanced technology, which are absolutely true areas that have been discovered, analyzed, and being applied. But today is not this topic, right? So what I just want to tell the participants here is that if you think that, okay, I am not into this world, I am not doing facial recognition, I am not into driverless car, I am not into building sports which can beat Gary Kasparov or whatever, or maybe I am not into the medical technology where these technologies are being used. What is it in for me then, right? There is a lot of things. So I mean, these pictures are there to just make sure you understand that this is not exactly only machine learning use cases. This is hype that created, that gets circulated, that okay, it is only for these use cases. It is not. And we will see, in day-to-day applications, in day-to-day business scenarios, in day-to-day even in academics, even in different operational scenarios, how it can be used, very simple use cases, and how it can actually make things better for us, right? Now, let us touch upon conventional programming versus machine learning. Probably you would already know people who have actually, who understands a little bit in this technology. But there's a subtle difference, and this difference, appreciating that difference is very important. That is why this slide is kept here. It is not a very simple kind of that, okay, it is one more programming language that comes in, one more technology that comes in. There's a vast difference. So what happens in conventional programming is there are rules, right? There are rules that are defined. For example, if my bank balance is more than this, or if it is reducing the this, I should get an SMS, right? Or for a loan, if the person has an income above this, and maybe an occupation like this, there's a set of flow charts that you actually architect and put it into a technology and then create an output, right? So the rules are created by your own. So the programmer who is doing the programming, they know what kind of rules it is. So conventional programming is kind of you know what would be the input and what your output would be, right? Machine learning is very different from it, because machine learning is all about um, you know making computers or making machines learn from experience. And what is an experience? I mean, like just like humans, what happens is from our past life, from our past incidents, we create perceptions, right? We create perceptions. We get to more experience. Maybe the second time we incur such a situation, we will be better in terms of handling that situation, or even better in terms of predicting and so on. And that is what happens in machine, right? So we will see, I mean, and that is why I always say that the same algorithm, the same computer, the same program running in different situations might give you different results. And that is the basic difference of conventional programming, right? So the whole approach is that you train the computer. How do you train the computer? It is not through rules, right? Because you would not know all the rules that are applicable in a particular scenario. And we will see how it applies, right? But to train a machine, you have to give some data set. The more data set you have, the more it is better, right? And feed it into the computer. The computer will find out patterns around it, right? It will not tell you what kind of pattern. It's kind of a black box, but it would actually create models. It will actually train itself, create perceptions, and when you have a new situation, a new set of data, it will actually give you whatever it has learned from past experience, give you an output based on that. So that is the difference, and that is why it is important that what you input as a data has to be sacrosanct, unbiased, has to be a representative of the entire community, or a representative of the entire set that we want it to handle. Now, before getting into machine learning, there are three topics, and let's again talk about a little bit about this. What is artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning? Artificial intelligence is anything which makes computers or artificial bodies intelligent or smart, right? I mean, we all know what a smartness means, what an intelligence means, but it could be anything. And the bar of artificial intelligence is changing. So if you see about possibly 60, 70 years back, it was probably a calculator was an artificial intelligence, because what it was an instrument that was actually giving much better or much faster output than what a human can do, right? But now you cannot actually say that, okay, my calculator is an artificial, even my mobile phone, right? Or any technology that you're using, everything is artificial intelligence, but the definition keeps changing from year to year based on where we are, what are the use cases, and where the technology is being applied for. So it stream of artificial intelligence is machine learning. So machine learning actually comes within artificial intelligence, is because it is making computers smarter. As simple as that. But it is a specialized area where you are creating, or you are making machine learn with more data, with more experience, as I explained earlier. And then we get into a little bit more deeper, where deep learning has come up, right? So you see the horizontal axis that, over the years, this technologies has seen different applications. Artificial intelligence is a kind of 5 decades old technology. I mean, maybe 6, 7 decades old technology. It is not new. There has been a lot of hype that was created in between, right? But it creates a lot of baggage also. And if we actually go into the history of artificial intelligence, at time, there was case where companies who were doing or developing artificial intelligence that were kind of the darling of the market, or not the market. I mean, at that time the market was not there, but they were perceived as the most advanced companies, right? But then it actually didn't go the route that was expected. So what happened is these companies actually doomed. And when they doomed, at one point of time, about this 30, 40 years back, anybody would actually keep them away from any tagline like artificial intelligence. Because as soon as you tag somebody with artificial intelligence, it was supposed to be a kind of a hype, nothing coming out of it, and so on. So what I'm trying to say is these technologies are old, right? There are, of course, advancement in terms of new areas like machine learning and deep learning, but there has been ups and downs, and we see new use cases, new applications coming in. There is a reason that we see that boom today. The reason is all because everything is getting connected, and as everything is getting connected, there's more and more data that is coming out. Those data, we have power today to collect these data, to mine these data. Right, we have power today, the processing power or the compute power, which was not there about 60, 70 years back. We have specialized chipsets like GPUs, right, which can do much faster computation, and therefore these technologies are actually seeing breakthroughs, right? So it is not just by chance that there's another curve that is coming up and there's a hype and so on. There's specific reasons why these
Well, बिल्कुल.
Dear participants, I think due to a technical lag, um, Deepak sir has just disconnected. He'll just be back with us.
very specific area that.
So there was a slight lag in between.
Okay.
So you got disconnected. I request you can switch off your camera so that you are completely audible, because in between your voice got disconnected.
Oh, I'm sorry for this.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
yeah. So I switched off my camera, so probably
Yes, sir.
bandwidth will be utilized much efficiently now. So what I was talking about was these three types of artificial intelligence, and very quickly we'll just touch upon. One is a narrow intelligence, very specific area, right? Just like chatbot system. The other is an general intelligence, which is computers working like an human being in a more generic fashion. And then there's an artificial intelligence, which is super intelligence, so it is much smarter than humans. So general intelligence is like still it is working under the control of humans, and it is able to deliver more efficiently. But super intelligence is, again, this is more about science fiction movies right now. We don't have applications, but still, as a categorization, still you see that in your textbooks. It is more about where it is much smarter, and probably would give you more areas of application that what even humans can do. But yeah, so let's move on. Let's move to machine learning, right? The whole topic that we have today. And if you Google what is machine learning, probably you will see whole lot of definitions, right? And many of these definitions would carry textbook definitions, which are very, very complicated to understand and quite abstract or maybe subjective. There would be some definitions which are definitely more quantified, but still it would probably not give a whole perspective. So I have just taken down two definitions that we have seen on. Just a minute. Yeah. So two definitions that I've seen on Google. One is, a little bit more abstract, where it says that machine learning seeks to answer the questions how we build computer systems that can automatically improve with experience. And we all understand it, right? It is very subjective. We don't know how to do that. It doesn't give you any flavor of the technology. It gives you more textual kind of introduction. And then you have more mathematical or statistical definition, which says that a computer program that is set to learn from experience. with respect to some class of task T and performance measure P. If its performance at task is T as measured by P improves it. I mean, it is all about improvement, right? It is all about that as you experience, just like humans, as you experience more, you will get to know more, you get to understand more and learn more, and therefore you would get to things much better in future or predict the future, right? So these are the definitions you will see. But what we will do is, so before defining, and you will also see a lot of jargons, right? I mean, these jargons you would not be able to avoid, even if you just scratch the surface, as I say. Right, we will not go through all these. Probably we'll touch upon some of these, right? And but just to tell you, I mean, all these definitions much simpler than what it seems like, right? So if you feel you are coming across these jargons, you would, of course, it is more deeper into the technology, but you can definitely learn about it, all about what kind of learnings or what kind of categorization of machine learning are there, data mining, data science, and so on. But I just kept it here for you to make sure that you know that these jargons would come in, right? It is not just you can avoid it. Now, if I do one more definition of machine learning, and let's refine the whole concept into an area which gives you more, into a way which gives you more, much better value, or much better, perception of what this technology is. It is actually a subset or a joint of artificial intelligence statistics, right? So you would see in this field that a lot of mathematical statistics, a lot of mathematical model is being discussed. It is actually application of statistics which are in an artificial intelligence way with data. It is being called as a machine learning. So this diagram, which actually beautifully depicts that what exactly it's a culmination of artificial intelligence statistics. So a lot of the data scientists that you see, the data scientists come from the background of mathematics, statistics, and they would actually know, how to define a pattern, what are the different models that are created, and so on. So that's an area to look into. We as a user of machine learning might not need to get deeper into the statistical part, might not need to get deeper into the algorithm part, right? But if you are actually pursuing this more into as your career, as a technology where you want to develop something, you cannot avoid statistics and mathematical model and so on, right? The right-in proportion actually gives you the way it works. So you have data. The data can be pictures. The data can be different operational data. It can be as simple as you have, for example, you have a model that is created, and you just show them the pictures. You don't even have to tell the program that what I want to do. You just have to tell show pictures of things that you would like the program to predict in future. Just for an example, you show the program different pictures of a cat, right? You don't need to tell the program that a cat would have two eyes, a nose, or a mouth, and it would have four legs, or it would sit like this, or you might have two cats, you might have three cats in a picture. You just show them, label it, and say that this picture is good, this picture is not good, right? And as the program keeps learning, right, at a point of time, you would actually have trained the model. You would have made the computer or made the program much smarter, where in fact the next picture that you show to the computer, you yourself would not need to label it. You yourself would not tell computer that there's a cat or there's not a cat. And then the program, the computer itself, irrespective of whether it has seen that picture earlier or not, it could be very different, would actually see it and then tell you whether I see a cat or not. It's a very simple application. And then you can expand this application in different areas, make it more complex, connect many of those functions, and make it kind of an industrial application. That all depends upon what you need to do. But it's as simple as training the model. While training the model, you tell the program that what is right, what is wrong, right? And then at a point, it comes to a level where it is already trained, and then the next set of data that you give, it is able to predict, and it is also able to tell that what is the level of prediction that I am doing, right? And we'll see that. I mean, it is not just only about that it will be able to predict everything absolutely true in all the scenarios, right? but it would be able to tell you that what is the level of confidence I have when I'm predicting. That comes out as well. Now, this definition we have already seen, a little difference between artificial intelligence and machine learning. Again, just to appreciate what exactly is artificial intelligence are more driven by explicit rules, right? And we define these explicit rules. It is a faster way and a smarter way of doing it, right? But still there are rules that are governing it. Machine learnings are not about rules. Machine learnings are providing examples and learning from it. Even if machine learning is part of artificial intelligence, I mean, there's a subtle difference on how it was done.
गुड इवनिंग, कहाँ पर हो? घर पे या डिपार्टमेंट?
Subrata sir, I
अच्छा, एक
request
चीज
you to
बताओ, ये
mute
जो हमारे
yourself. Thank you, sir. Deepak sir, you can continue. Sorry for the
No
interruption.
issues, no issues. Yeah. So what I was just saying is that there's a difference the way we were doing it earlier and now with the new machine learning technologies coming in. What exactly has changed? It is not about creating new rules. It is not about creating the same technology and creating it much faster and smarter. Because this you see in other technology areas. For example, 3G to 4G to 5G, right? I mean, what is happening is the technology is getting advanced, but what it is doing, it is making faster, right? And with faster technologies you have more applications, you have much wider use, right? So that is why you see those technology advancement happening. But here there's a subtle difference. It is not just creating new or making it a faster way, it is creating a different way. And that is why we say, when you are actually getting into machine learning, people who are very experienced in technologies, or they find little difficulty than people who are actually getting fresh into it. And why is it so is, when you have for example in over your experience, when you actually move from one technology to another technology, what you think is that whatever I have learned in my previous technology, I take the learning and I apply into the new technology. That is the way you actually drive and get into new technology areas. But here it is not like that. It is not like it is not a technology which will solve your problems in a different way. It is actually solving problems which probably were not problems for you earlier, right? And it seems like, okay, why do we need it then? Maybe we'll see it. It is making your life much easier, but probably you were doing it the same thing in a different way, more manually, right? For example, I mean, if you need to predict, or if you need to find out that I have developed a product and I have to price that product, right? What probably would have been happening is, in a boardroom, all the product managers, the executives, the stakeholders would be sitting around. They would be looking into different charts. They would be looking into different market analysis, and they themselves would, over some brainstorming sessions, they would decide, okay, I'll price this product like this, right? But when you actually do it in a human manner, you would probably miss out a lot of subtle differences, a lot of those past experiences, and would not be able to churn out all these things. So machine learning helps here, and probably we'll see that in experience as well. But the things that were done earlier, you can do it in a much better fashion. Now let me get into a little bit more, still defining machine learning, but much more than the textual definition. We go into a working definition, right? How do we start? What do we do? What are the steps involved? And that is why we call it as a working definition, rather than what we defined as a kind of a Wikipedia or a textbook, definitions, right? So I have put 4 steps here, and this is in overall sense what exactly it would involve, right? So what we do is we take existing data, right? We analyze IT, we analyze it to define patterns, right? And that is what we said. I mean, data would have patterns inside it, and the program would actually analyze the patterns. Then it use the results and it make predictions for the new data. I mean, it's as simple as that. Now, when we are taking existing data, what do we need to make sure, what existing data is? Can we actually take out any data and dump it into the program, and the program will be able to, some magical way find a way and give us, spit out some patterns and tell you that, this is how things look like in your data? No, it is not going to happen. It's not a magic, right? Now, who defines the patterns? When it says analyze it to define patterns, So it should not be capital here. So analyze it, IT small. So analyze it to define patterns. Who defines the pattern? Would we need to define the pattern? How would algorithm know that there is a pattern definition? Would I actually tell the algorithm that I need this kind of use cases and therefore give me these kind of patterns? We will look into this, right? And then use the results. Now, what are the results? What does the result mean? Who analyzes whether the result is good or not, right? And then make better prediction about the new data. So we'll see this working definition. All these 4 steps are quite involved in itself, quite exhaustive in itself. And right, as I said, it's not a magic, so we'll need to take care of a few areas here. Right? Now, when we were working with machine learning, things to start with, whenever you start working with a database, right? So you have a lot of options. You have SQL Server, you have DB2, you have MongoDB, Cassandra. I mean, whether you need SQL or non-SQL based, so you have so many options. Similarly, when you are creating a web server, probably you again have open source and more licensed versions, Apache, Nginx. I mean, there are so many options available as a web server. Similarly, when you start with machine learning, right, don't think that we will have to write some algorithm. The algorithms are available. As I said, there are two kinds of opportunities, or two kind of people set who would work into these kind of technologies. One who actually develop the algorithms, one who actually get deeper into the statistical model, into the mathematical models, and so on. The other set of people are who are actually churning out the data, who are mining the data, feeding the data, selecting those algorithms, because there's a vast variety of algorithms, right? Looking into the patterns, looking into the results, and finding out what works best, right? So for the participant today in this webinar, what I would envision is that we are into the other category. So when you are actually starting learning machine learning, you have a lot of options. You have options like, Azure gives you a machine host. These are, I mean, and if I actually put it here, there are libraries like TensorFlow, like PyTorch. I mean, these are all funded or supported by big enterprises. TensorFlow is supported by Google, PyTorch is supported by Facebook. Then you have, hosted machine learning platforms like, Azure. Azure has a platform. Amazon has a platform. Google has its own hosted platform. Even IBM has a platform called IBM Watson, right? So there's so many algorithms, so many platforms that are already available. You don't have to do and search and go into each of these. Just select one, and you are just bingo. You try to start working on it. Now coming back to yeah. So coming back to the different applications of machine learning, and before that, maybe I will touch upon this slide. We didn't talked about this slide a little bit more in detail. Now, when we define these 4 steps, right, the things looks very simple. We take data, we define patterns. The compute or the algorithm will actually define patterns for us, and we analyze the results and we start predicting it, right? But believe me, when you actually get into it, the most of the work, about 80% of your work, is in the first 2 steps, right? So what data you actually fed into the system. It cannot be any kind of a data. You have to refine, you have to pre-process, you have to probably, filter out. You will have to, probably also see if there's a bias into the data that you're putting up. So you have to do all sort of normalization into your data, right? And then, of course, you would not need to take out anomalies and so on. I mean, there are algorithms would actually do it for you, right? Which would actually take out any data set which is different than the normal pattern that you see here. So that all thing is done, but there is a big data engineering work in providing the existing data. And then even when you are defining the patterns, when you feed the data into the system, and the system will actually give you some pattern, right? It will give you some models, and when you actually see the results, there are a whole set of algorithms that you would need to find out from, right? I mean, there are thousands of algorithms. Some algorithms work in a better manner for some of the use cases. The other algorithms work for different use cases. So you would have to probably get into a little deeper, do some trial and error, understand what that particular algorithm does, understand your use case, and then select those algorithms, right? So once you select those algorithms, you would probably need to change your algorithm in between as well, depending upon what kind of probability you are getting. So to keep it in a very simple format, you give the data. For example, if you have 10 set of data, you feed the system with 8 set of data, and that is a normal way, industrial way of doing it, right? You define the patterns, right? And then you create the algorithm. I mean, you select the algorithm, your program is ready, and the two data set that was left out of the 10, the 20% of the data set, you feed it to predict it, because you know the result of those 20%, right? So when you feed it, you will get a result or a prediction from your algorithms, and there is where you would know whether your prediction is working the right way or not, because we call it as a 80-20 rule. The 80% of the data set that you have, you feed it to train the model. The 20% of the data set that you're left out with, you actually again feed it to find out whether the predictions or the model has learned itself or not. And once you are actually kind of okay with it, then you think, yeah, it is a good way of going, and then you can apply your use case, right? That's the industrial way, but things can change. I mean, it all depends upon how you're applying it. Let me go into a little bit more into detail of what I was talking about at the very start. We were defining different use cases like, recognition face, or driverless car, and so on. But coming back from there, there are different areas which very simple areas where these algorithms or this power of compute can be applied. For example, very simple example, whether your incoming email is classified as spam or not spam. So you would see your Gmail actually classifying a lot of your emails as spam and not spam and so on, right? It is not just rules. I mean, you can of course do it that if I get it from this person, it is a spam. If I get it as a broadcast, it's a spam. That is a rule based, right? We are not talking about that. We are talking about the machine itself learning that these kind of advertisements, or these kind of topics, or these kind of the body of the message, or the body of the emails are actually spam, right? So you give it a data, it would learn itself, and then any kind of an email that is coming in, it would actually classify. So that's a very very simple example. The second example is website activity, right? When any customer is browsing the catalog of your products, for example in Amazon, right? What happens? You would see that when you are browsing their catalog, they understand, and based on the experience of customer behavior earlier, they would classify you whether you are a high value customer or you are not a high value customer. They can even classify you that what kind of products you would be interested in. It's not just that what you're browsing. In fact, what they would tell you is a little bit different products also. They would actually throw at you other product which probably such customers have bought earlier based on their learning, right? And you would also see, I mean, in retail sector, and you would see those patterns everywhere. I mean, if you go deeper into the data, you would see that people probably who are buying one category of product, there's a pattern that they inadvertently buy the other category of products also. So there is where the retailers can use that information to make for more focused marketing, more focused advertisement, more focused target of the customer or segmentation of the customer, right? And then, I mean, those use cases can go on and on. But what I'm trying to say is classification is a very simple kind of a machine learning algorithm. It just tells you that it is this or that, right? So it classifies based on what learning you have been able to impart to that particular algorithm or that particular computer. Now, when it is classifying, I mean, just to give you a perspective of how it happens, when it is classifying, it would actually probably give you a scale of 0 to 1. And anybody who have gone through, your chapter of probability or the chapter of, permutation and combinations in your high school mathematics, you would know it that, I mean, anything that is certain is 1, anything which is uncertain is 0, right? So again, as I said, it is not a magic. So the computer or the algorithm or the program that you have written would not have the power of predicting everything absolutely true, right? If this would have been true, I mean, people would have been making millions in your share market, right? Because if all your if all your predictions, you can put it in a format in a particular compute, they do predict. They do. You have experts who does data churning and tell you that okay, this year will go up, this year will go down, as kind of your technical evaluation. But then it is not absolutely true, right? So therefore, the output that you would get is in terms of a probability. It probably would give you that this email I see as a spam, but the probability is 0.82. So there's still a chance, 18%, that it is not a spam. And then there are ways where you can give feedback, right? So good programmers or good user experience, what they would do is they would actually create a way to get the feedback that if I've got a categorization of an email as a spam and it was not a spam, then I tell the computer and retrain it that what you said is wrong so that it understands from the experience and the next time it is much better, right? So all those feedback loops are there. But what it actually tells you is classification is a simple, you know, yes or no in a scale of 0 to 1, right? I mean, making it very sure this is how it is. Now, then there are other areas where you can apply it. For example, predicting a house price. So we defined that you are categorizing, you're classifying certain things into yes or no. But here it is not about yes or no. Here it is about predicting a machine, a house price or a particular value of something that comes out, comes out of the experience. Now, house price could have a pattern related to many things, right? It could be patterns related to the zip code that you are in. It could be pattern, how much, of course, big your house is, what is how much old your house built up is, what area it is, what is the market scenario right now, what is the equity market like, what is the inflation. I mean, there are so many things that you would probably not even know and would probably not even perceive that this could be a part of my house price or not, right? So machine learning helps you redefine this. What you need to do is you have all your past data and all the variables which you think would actually impact on the house price. You have your past data, you feed it into the algorithm trains itself, it would understand what weightage of these pattern, I mean, that is what the pattern says, right? What weightage of those variables are into the house price. It will create a pattern out of it, right? And when you actually then next time when you actually give a new set of data, it will be able to predict and give a kind of a value. This is known as a regression. Again, as I said, I will not get into more into technology. These are just classifications. This is a technology called linear regression. Again, an application of machine learning, right? Again, you can have regression examples many ways, right? So you can predict the sale price of a house that we talked about. You can predict the expected demand of a product, right? Again, it is a value that whether my demand in this quarter would be up, or if it is a cyclic nature, should I do some changes according to my supply chain, because I see the demand going up or down. I mean, it helps you redefine these things, predict how long a project will take, and it is not simple like putting a project plan. And I mean, believe me, you would see applications like even if you are doing in your work, if you are programming, if you are writing code, and if you have data set, and we have applied in our company as well. If you are actually a particular coder is writing code, it can even predict how many bugs would come in that code, right? So that I mean, it could be different. It all depends upon the how experienced the programmer is, whether he is putting the full focus, he or she is putting the full focus, and so on. There are many variables, but then statistics is all about predictions, right? Statistics is all about a particular, I mean, it's not about a quantified value. It is all about a particular a perception that comes out of it, a view that comes out of it. So you can use it in multiple scenarios. How long a project will take is all about not about project planning. These kind of projects have seen delays, right? I mean, how much is the risk into it? How much complex the project is? So many things taken care, and it will tell you that even if the project manager tells you it will happen in 2 months, it is not going to happen in 2 months. It will take 5 months, to complete this project, and you can be more, I mean, receptive to this. predict which potential locations will be most profitable. I mean, all these are areas, and you can very well see that, I mean, you can just, go on and on to redefine, and all those use cases would come in. Getting a little faster. So we talked about machine learning algorithms. Again, I'm just at a very high level, not getting into details. You have two kinds, and Dr. Subrata talked about it: supervised learning, unsupervised learning. Supervised learning is all about, we talked about classification, we talked about regression. It's all about where you are giving the data and telling the computer or the program that whatever data I'm giving you, I know what is right and what is wrong. So I'm telling you from my experience, I'm giving it to you as an experience. So you learn it from the experience. That is how it is supervised. I'm supervising you. And next time I tell you and ask you, then probably you have, based on your experience, what I have imparted to you, you have to give me an output, right? That is your supervised learning. Both regression, classification comes under supervised learning. There's another way, unsupervised learning, where still you give the data, right? But you yourself would not label it. You yourself would not say what is right, what is wrong. The program would itself over the time understand that, what are the different anomalies I have, how should I classify, how should I cluster, and so on. So that's another set of things. And you would have different use cases around, both the type of algorithms, both the type of learning. I'll just skip this. Yeah. So this is an important topic which I wanted to touch upon. And what is a bias, right? Now, as I said, it is not a magic where you put some data and you get a pattern, and that pattern would start predicting your output data. All the quality of your prediction for future depends upon the quality of data that you have provided at the very start. For example, it's just like a child, right? The child, the more experience it would have, the better experience or the positive experience you would have, the better results, or more vast experience you would have, the child would have, the better result you will see in the future in terms of understanding. Similarly, if you are feeding a data which is not complete or not representative of the entire set that you want to actually target, you would not get. And I'll give you an example. Even, for example, in a hospital, if you have a kind of a data set where what kind of lifestyle diseases is happening in what kind of people at what age, what are the categorization in terms of age, demography, or maybe different other parameters. Now, you would have past experiences, right? And you feed that data. Now, but we know in our country that most of the time when you have lifestyle kind of diseases, it is the higher income group who would actually go to the hospital to cure it, right? And that is a bias that you're creating. So what would happen is, if you feed that data and you start getting prediction out of it, the computer or the program would predict in a manner understanding that only the higher income category gets into that kind of a diseases, right? So the next time it would not predict, if you are actually giving the salary data or the economic factor of the data to predict, it would probably give you a prediction that a person who is not doing well in terms of economy, um, you know he doesn't have that disease, right? So that's a bias you create. There could be any kind of an example. For example, even when you have a company data in terms of different job postings, right? Earlier, and I'm not getting into any kind of inequality discussion, or I mean, it is a little it is a little sensitive discussion here. But what I'm trying to say is, the gender bias that you have in your data set that you are feeding into the system, and if it has that kind of a bias, what you get as an output would be biased, right? It is as simple as that. There are ways you can actually remove the biases. There are technologies where you can remove the biases, but we very I mean, aware of this factor, and we have seen a lot of use cases getting bad because of these changes. Another example is a translate, right? When you are translating from one language to another language, there are biases created in terms of grammar, in terms of gender categorization. For example, the French language would probably not have a differentiation between he and she, right? So when you're translating from one language to another language, and then again retranslating from other language to this language, you would see that you would not get the same result, right? And you would actually try to understand why it is so, because each language, each grammatical or syntactical or the rules around the language would actually create bias into it, and it is very difficult to remove that bias. So be aware of these. I think it just makes it much more prudent and much more applicable. I will stop here. I do have a topic of deep learning, but I don't think we have enough time because the topic in itself, right? And we should have some question and answer sessions also. So that's what I wanted to cover today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deepak sir, for this wonderful session. We have a number of questions in the chat window, as we can already see. So with your permission, now my colleague, Miss Ayushi Chopra, will be taking up those questions with you. So,
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Deepak sir. It was indeed a very wonderful and insightful session, which I am sure that it would have enlightened the participants about the essentialities of machine learning and for all. So there are some questions that I would like to take upon with your permission, sir. May I?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. The very good question for participants, like as most of the technologies are available, is that AI will also phase out. Should I repeat
Yeah,
the question?
I'm sorry, Aishi. Your voice is breaking in between. I don't know if it is only with me, but I couldn't
Okay.
understand the question. Can you please repeat?
So the question, I repeat. Okay, I repeat the question. As most of the technologies are quickly replaced with a new technology, how probable is that AI/ML will also phase out?
Yeah, so as we said, and that is actually correct. And even artificial intelligence have seen that, right? As I was actually explaining, it is not a new technology. It has been around for 60, 70 years. It has seen all the kind of hypes and then, phasing out, and people even getting, a lot of companies getting lost out because they had too much invested into this technology. Now, I don't know what might have happened 60, 70 years back, but it has never been a better time to actually embrace this technology as it is today, right? And I'll give you enough reasons for it. So with a lot of advancement in other technologies, because today in today's world, even technologies are so connected, like just like people are connected, things are so much connected, and one technology boosts up the another technology, right? When we actually see technologies like 5G, for example, what you would see is that with 5G technology coming in, making connectivity much faster, the mobile network getting more faster. There are an ecosystem or more use cases coming up, and therefore there's an advancement of other type of applications which could not have run earlier. Getting a platform to run. So that's the connectivity between the market and the technology, right? We all know this, but even technologies are connected in the sense that today we are talking about AI/ML because we have the power, we have so many avenues, to collect the data. There's enormous data. I mean, we talk and there's a burst of data that is coming in, whether it is online shopping, whether it is your connectivity data, whether it is the customer data, your social media, right, your connected cars. I mean, the kind of the frauds that might be happening, the facial recognitions. I mean, whole set of, I can go on, and you would have all the kind of data. Today we have the power and we have technologies to collect this data, to do data mining. Earlier we did not have. We have the compute power. The compute power has gone tremendously high. We have data centers that are hosted now. Companies like Amazon, Google, they have. I mean, you can just get compute power for free, right? For some time. At the click of a button, you don't need to buy anything. You just have to spend a few dollars, and you have the power to run all your algorithms. And then there are technologies like hardware, specific hardwares, right? As I was saying, GPUs, graphical processing units. These technologies has created an environment that this is the best time that we can embrace it and create more applications and use it in our daily life. So I don't think it is fading out, right? It will probably advance much faster.
Okay, okay, very well. Thank you so much for answering it so well, sir. So I have another good question. So the question is that can anomaly detection in intrusion detection be supervised? I repeat the question, sir. Can anomaly detection in intrusion detection be supervised?
Yeah, absolutely. It can be. See, I mean, what is the difference between supervised learning and unsupervised learning? Whatever your textbook says, right? But if you actually look into it from a perspective, anything that what happens is anomaly detection and fraud detections are kind of outliers. These are not normal data, right? Because in a millions of data set you will see one fraud probably being tried out, or one anomaly that might be, and that is why it is called anomaly, right? Now if you have a huge data set of all the kind of anomalies that you have, right? If you have the privilege of such a scenario that you know that exactly, I have millions of anomalies that I can have, and I know that these are anomalies, you can feed it to the system. You can say that these are the anomalies, you classify it as an anomaly, and then the program or the system would take it very, very, it would be happy, right? If it was a human, it would be happy that, okay, you're providing me with all the data. But the whole intent of anomaly detection is that you don't have a vast amount of anomaly data. You have vast amount of normal data, but the outlier is an outlier. So therefore, you feed the system understands in itself that this all looks like a normal data set, and this is an outlier, which it calls an anomaly. And therefore, it becomes more prudent to have it as an unsupervised rather than supervised.
Okay, I must say that you have answered and done great justice to this question, sir. So great answer to it, and I'm getting so number of questions. So another question I want to raise is that there is a question: will there be any human required to feed in the data to make machine learning more intelligent?
Yeah, so data feeding is not kind of a manual exercise where somebody is taking data and feeding into the system like we have in an industrial setup, right? It is all automated. Now, of course, the human is required to see that what is the kind of data that should be fed into the system. As I was explaining, you have a lot of data. So, for example, if you go to any web server and you actually see the last 1 month of data, you would have all the kind of data that who all have come into the web server, who have tried what kind of situations, what are the different applications being tried out, and so on. Does it make sense to feed all the data into the program? What do we intend the program to do it? Probably not. So what you would need to do is a human would need to understand that, okay, what I need as an output, right? And therefore, what data makes sense, filter out that data, normalize that data, label that data. If it is a supervised learning, then you have to tell the program that what is correct, what is not correct, what is classified as yes, what is classified as no. If it is unsupervised learning, then you don't have to label it. You have to just feed it that way. But you have to do a lot of data churning, right? So that, because what we say is garbage in is garbage out, right? So if you actually put everything all together and you want some magic to happen, it would not happen. Probably not today. It might happen tomorrow, but today there's a data scientist, there's a data engineer who actually looks into the data, who understands the use case, churns it out specifically, filters out, normalize it, and then feed it.
Okay, so as I told you, I'm getting so many questions. So lastly, I would like to address this question and ask you that our participants want to know that is machine learning a continuous process, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a continuous, because learning is always continuous, right? I mean, you all are part of academics. You would never see in your life that I have learned everything, right? And therefore, it is the same kind of a concept. The more the data you have, and it is very important, the more the data you have, the more sacrosanct data. It's not again garbage. The more the experiences you have, the more better predictions you will have, right? So it is a continuous process, and therefore there should be a feedback loop. Even if you are creating a use case where you had given some data, you are good with the predictions, you are using it and so on, but make sure that when you get an output, right, you are able to feed the actual output, because once you get an output, you don't know whether it is correct or not, but over the time you would know the output given by the program is correct or not. Then make it label and feed it back into the system and retrain it. That is the learning part, and therefore it is a continuous learning.
Okay, thank you so much, Deepak sir. Now I would request Professor Huda sir to kindly present a certificate to Mr. Deepak Goyal sir as a token of remembrance and gratitude. Please, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Deepak. It was a fantastic webinar. We all know that the topic machine learning is such a topic which will be ever evolving. And yes, I was seeing few questions which creates doubt and ambiguity amongst the mind of the audience, and that you nicely clarified. And in fact, the way there is always a scope that a doctor may mistreat the patient, in the same way, when the machine is going to learn with our experiences of domain expert, so it has to be ensured that the domain expert should be right one. Otherwise, the machine will learn wrongly and then will start performing wrongly. Right? If we do not give a right exposure to the machine to learn from the right kind of driving on the road, then probably the driverless car who will be driving on the road will also not drive properly and will drive wrongly. So these debates will keep on happening. There are many concerns that many biases will come. So biases are supposed to happen because ultimately the human beings are going to train and create that machine which is self-learning machine. So nonetheless, we must ensure that the best possible aspect, the constructive aspect, the most useful aspect of the technology should be used. But it is a hardcore reality that coming days are the days of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning, irrespective of the subject domain. That subject domain is a very small term now. Whatever we see before us in almost every spectrum, machine learning is going to be used. So this is such a broad, such a diversified topic, and in just 1 hour, very nicely you have explained. And thank you so much. This certificate is once again not for the purpose of certification, rather for a purpose of remembrance, that when you see this certificate, let's remind yourself, your memories, that we have been part of this fantastic webinar, and we'll meet again for another with another topic for another webinar. So thank you so much, Mr. Deepak. And dear friends, today from my team, there are two teachers in the front end. Dr. Ritika as usual since last June 2020, and then Ayushi. So now both of them will be taking care, and particularly the way we normally believe in a kind of creating a reliable system. And when you believe in creating a reliable system cannot be created unless you infuse redundancy in the system, unless you infuse the multiple levels of execution in the system. So considering that, there are two people who will be managing this program from the front end from now onwards, Ayushi and Dr. Ritika. And again, at the back end, we have two people, Mr. Manish and Uttam, who keeps on monitoring and keeps on providing all back-end services. So thank you so much to all the participants. This room is being converted into a facilitation center, into a help desk, into a call center to take care of your all queries related to certificates. The link has already been circulated. There are many webinars, which are around 5 webinars, which are also notified. And if you have not registered by now, please register for those webinars. The purpose is to ensure that how to ensure to continue learning despite disruptions, which is happening all around us. So this is a very challenging time, though, because of the economic reasons, because of many other political reasons, because of many economic compulsions. The governments, not only in our country, in many other countries, are opening the routine activities. But that does not mean that we should not take care of. We should not apply the open loop algorithm. We should not be taking the preventive measures to safeguard all of us from the deadly spreading virus, not even virus, because this is not considered as a virus, the kind of the infection of COVID. And as I mentioned that today only, someone was updating me that maybe in April, sometime in April, you may see revised version. I was reading a post on LinkedIn wherein one of the former vice chancellors has said that COVID has passed BA first year, BA second year, BA third year, and now entered into the MF previous. So let's see how with how much marks MF previous it is going to pass, because BA third year the COVID has scored very less marks. So now it is a struggle, it is a fight between human being, the immune system of the human being, and the virus who is going to attack to all of us. So let's be careful. Let's ensure that all preventive measures be undertaken. Machine learning is for that purpose. That learn from our experiences of not from the third wave, but from the second wave, and apply that at least as a human being. And if we learn truly the lessons from the second wave, possibly we will apply all preventive measures, and will see to it that we defeat again if there is any fourth wave coming. Thank you so much. If there is any questions, queries, you may write in the chat window. The team members of the teachers are here to resolve your queries. And thank you so much. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Oh,
Deepak
great,
sir. Thank
great to
you.
have you. Great to have you, Mr. Deepak, always.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Huda sir.
Thank
So
you.
I
Thank you.
thank all our distinguished panelists and participants who have been continuously supporting us throughout the webinar for their cooperation and patience. A big thank you to all of you who have joined us in this intellectual session. Hope that you will keep connecting with us in the near future. So I must say that there is a feedback link which has been shared with you in the chat box. So all of you are requested to please fill in that link so that this certificate should be shared to you. Please.
Dear participants, few of you who cannot see the feedback link, kindly click on the chat window on your device and click on the panelist name Professor Emin Huda or Delcon 2022 Room 5. The feedback link has been shared by both the panelists. You will find the feedback link in the chat that has been shared by those panelists.
I have again
Do all
posted the feedback link. Those who have not seen or not got it, please see to the chat window. Feedback link is here, and let's be quick enough because these webinars are time bound. And if you are not in a position to generate, probably we'll be closing the room and entire system will get deactivated. Thank you so much.
So all the participants are requested to fill up the feedback form link shared on the chat box so that the certificate of participation can be automatically generated in the PDF form and it will be shared to you. Please note that the link of submission of feedback will be active only till 8:30 p.m. When you fill up the feedback form, then your certificate of participation shall automatically be generated in PDF and emailed to you as an attachment on your registered email ID. Please note that the certificate shall be generated based upon the data which is filled by you in the feedback form. So write your name and organization as you want in your certificate. Also give any Gmail ID as the auto system works seamlessly for the Gmail. Meeting room will be open till 8:30 p.m. and your queries will be related to the certificate will be resolved till then. I hope that you will fill up the feedback form soon.
Dear participants, the feedback link has been shared by Professor Emin Huda sir in the chat window. Number of attendees is continuously going down. We have almost 150 certificates which have already been successfully generated. So I hope the last attendees who are still there with us, they are only waiting for their certificate of participation. I request everybody kindly fill and submit the feedback form timely so that your certificate can be generated in a timely manner. Thank you, dear participants. The ones who have received their certificate, they are most welcome to log out of the meeting room. Take care. Have a good weekend. We will be back with you next Saturday on 19th Feb with another webinar of ours. You can register and you can participate in the same.
Dear participant, it is again to bring to your notice that the feedback form is shared on your chat box. So kindly fill in that form so that the certificate of participation can be generated automatically in PDF and can be mailed to you as an attachment. Please note that the certificate generated will be based upon the data entered by you in the feedback form. So write your name and organization correctly. And also this meeting room will be open till 8:30 p.m. to resolve all your queries related to the certificate. So kindly fill in the form soon.
Dear participants, I can see many participants have already left the meeting room. Thank you, all of you, for being part of this wonderful webinar. The last few participants who are left, I repeat again, I hope they have already successfully submitted the feedback form and are only waiting for their certificate of participation. If you do not receive your certificate of participation in your inbox, you can please check your spam folder also. If you don't find it there, you can share your email ID with all the panelists in the chat window. We are there to help you out with your certificate of participation. But the only request from our side is please submit the feedback form so that your certificate can be generated. Until and unless you have submitted the feedback form, your certificate will not be generated. It's an automated process. Please help us with the same. The participant who cannot view the feedback link, I repeat for them, click on the chat option, chat with all panelists. In the panelist name, you will find the name of Professor Emin Huda. You can click on his name and in the chat option, you will find the feedback link. Sir has just now shared the feedback link again for any such participants who couldn't view the feedback link. So please click on the chat option that you have on your device and the name of the panelist will be Professor Emin Huda. He has just shared the feedback link. Please click on the same and submit your feedback form. Don't try to copy the link somewhere because if you copy the link, there may be a problem that garbled characters may get copied and you may be unable to view the feedback form. The feedback form may not load on your device.
Dr. Shubha Reddy, if there is some mistake in filling your feedback form, I think you can try from another email ID because we do not have any mechanism to correct your feedback. So let's try from another email ID. If you have another Gmail ID, use that ID. Or whatever problem you have. Otherwise, if you wanted a solution, please write to all panelists so that my team members who are there waiting for providing services to you should get that input and be ready to provide services, right?
Dear participants, if you do not receive your feedback form in your chat window, in your inbox within 5 to 10 minutes, we are still there. Don't leave the meeting room. Share your email ID with all the panelists. We are there to help you out. Over 200 certificates have already been generated, dear participants. The last few participants who are still there with us, I request them kindly, I hope you have submitted the feedback form. Sanjay Behel sir, surely we will help you out. Sanjay Behel sir has shared his email ID with all the panelists. Uttam sir, please check if his certificate of participation has been generated. Mehwash Vikar sir has also shared his email ID, Uttam sir. So please help them. Don't worry, Sanjay Behel and Mehwash sir. We will surely help you out within a few minutes. We are working at the back end. Thank you, Dr. Husam. It was wonderful having you again. I hope to have you back again next week on 19th Feb with another webinar of ours. Sanjay Behel sir and Mehwaz sir, we are working at the back end for your certificate. We are just checking. So please give us a few minutes. We'll just respond to it. Sanjay Behel sir, your feedback form has not been received. Same is for Mehwash Vikar sir, your feedback form has not been received. I request you all, please again fill the feedback form. If it is not allowing from the same email ID, you can use an alternate email ID of yours, but please fill the feedback form again. Sanjay Behel sir and Mehwash Vikar sir. Last 58 attendees left. I hope all of you have submitted the feedback form and are only waiting for your certificate of participation. Sanjay sir, your email ID is wrong in your feedback form. It has been received. So just a minute, we'll be sharing the Google Drive link for the same. Sanjay Behel sir, no need to fill the feedback form again. We are just sharing your certificate, but the email ID this time is wrong. So that is why your feedback could not be delivered. Your certificate could not be delivered into your inbox. Paridhi Koshik, feedback form link has already been shared in the chat window. Sanjay Behel sir, your Google Drive link for your certificate of participation has been shared in the chat window. You can download it from here. Mehwash Vikar sir, we have already shared the Google Drive link for your certificate of participation. Please download it from here and take care. Next time, please give the correct email ID. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar. We hope to have you back next week with our another webinar. Paridhi Kaushik, I request you, please click on the chat window option, click on Professor Emin Huda name, and you will find the feedback link. Last 55 participants left. I hope all of you have already submitted the feedback form and are only waiting for your certificate. If you do not find your certificate of participation in your inbox 5 to 10 minutes after submitting the feedback form, you're most welcome to share your email ID with all the panelists. We are there to help you out with the same. But please fill the feedback link in time so that your certificate of participation can be generated in a timely manner. Last 52 attendees left. Uttam sir, we can start calculating which participants' feedback form has not been received. I have last 50 attendees left. Over 200 certificates have already been successfully generated for today's session, dear participants. So I hope the leftover participants are only waiting for their certificate of participation.
Participants, you are requested to check your spam folder. If you have not received the certificate in your inbox, you might find it in the spam folder. Also, those participants who have not yet filled the feedback form and not operated the link are requested to fill in the feedback form soon and write it to us, so as the meeting room will be open till 8:30 p.m. only, and we would not be able to help you after that. So kindly fill in the feedback form soon and also provide the data which is correct, as it will be filled in your certificate same.
I have last 46 participants left. I hope all of you have already submitted the feedback form and are only waiting for your certificate of participation. We have Adil Rashid, Ajay Shankar Jha, Ali Jabbar, Anup Upadhyay, Sanjay Behel sir, we have shared the Google Drive link for your certificate in the chat window. You can download it from there. Your email ID in your feedback form was wrong. So that is why the certificate has not been delivered in your inbox. But the feedback for your certificate Google Drive link is already there in the chat window. You can download it from here. I will again share, Sanjay Behel sir, your Sanjay Behel sir, I have again shared the Google Drive link for your certificate. You can just click on this and download your certificate. Vijay Vadhankar sir, there is no link for certificate. There is a feedback form link which you will click and submit, and your certificate would be automatically generated. Professor M.N. Huda, Director Sir, Bharati Vidyapeeth, Computer Institute of Computer Applications and Management, BVI CAM, has again shared the feedback link in the chat window. Kindly click on that, fill it and submit it to generate your certificate of participation. I hope the last few participants, the last 41 participants who are still there with us, have already submitted their feedback form successfully and are only waiting for their certificate of participation. I'll again repeat the names. If these participants are still there with us and have not received their certificate as yet, even after filling the feedback form, you're most welcome to share your email ID with all panelists in the chat window. Adil Rashid, Ajay Shankar Jha, Ali Jabbar, Anup Upadhyay, Apurv Khare, Ashutosh, Deepa Mehta, Deepak Varadham, Dr. Rajashekar, Dr. Pawan, Dr. Rohini Shinde, Dr. Shabana, Dr. Shunmugan, Kamlesh Shah, Karan, Krishna Kumar, Kulanthavil, Lenin, Mohammed, Mohanlal, Mohit Jadhav, Pardeep Kumar, Paridhi Kaushik, Payal, Pramatosh, Priya Ranjan, Priyanka Das, Rajendra Kathal, Raju Amle, Ramakant, Ramesh G, Sanjay Behel sir certificate is already generated, Santhya P, Shushma Ingle, Varat Kulkarni, Vijay Vadhankar, Virendra Kumar and Yashwant Kumar. I hope these 39 participants have already successfully submitted the feedback form and are only waiting for their certificate of participation. Once you receive your certificate of participation, you're most welcome to leave the meeting room, dear participants. Take care, have a good week. Take care of yourselves during these difficult times and join us back next week on 19th of Feb for our next webinar. Last 39 participants we are already calculating at backend which participants' feedback form has not been received. Over 250 certificates have already been successfully generated for today's webinar. So I hope the last few participants, last 37 participants that we have, they are only waiting for their certificates. All of you have already successfully submitted your feedback form. Last 36 attendees we have. We have already started calculations of whose feedback has not been received. Uttam sir, Dr. Najib has shared his email ID and Huda sir has shared it with all of us. So please check for his feedback form. Dr. Najib Ahmed Khan, please give us a few minutes. We will just check your feedback form. Ali Jaber has also shared his email ID. Ali Jaber sir is from Cape Gemini. Thank you so much, sir. Just wait a minute. We are just checking your certificate in the background. Dr. Najib Ahmed Khan, sir, the Google Drive link for your certificate has already been shared in the chat window. Kindly click on the same and download your certificate. Ali Jaber, sir, just a minute. We are checking for your certificate also at the back end. Ramakanta Chaudhary, sir, you can just click on the register link at our website for the next webinar. And yes, you will receive a reminder for the same. Ali Jaber, sir, no feedback form has been received from your side. I request you, please fill the feedback form again. Please submit it again because a feedback form has not been received from your side. That is why your certificate could not be generated. Thank you, Vijay Vadhankar, sir. Thank you so much. You are most welcome to leave the meeting room. We hope to have you back next week again on 19th Feb. Last 34 attendees, I hope everybody has submitted the feedback form. Ali Jaber, sir, it is quite difficult to share the feedback link on any emails. I am sorry for that, but the feedback form link is already there in the chat window. You can click on the chat window and under panelist name, you can click on Professor Emin Huda, sir. He has shared the feedback link multiple times, so you will find it there. Thank you, Sanjay Behel, sir. It was wonderful having you. We hope to have you back again next week on 19th Feb. You are one of our old participants and one of the members of the BVI CAMP family, I would say, extended members of the BVI CAMP family. I would take that privilege to have you as our member. So it's wonderful to have you every week. Ali Jaber, sir, we have again shared the feedback link. Huda sir has again shared it. So please click on the same and submit the feedback form for your certificate of participation. Thank you, Sanjay Behel, sir. Over 300 certificates have already been successfully generated for today's session, dear participants. I hope the last few participants who are left, they are only waiting for their certificate of participation and have already submitted the feedback form. We have last 32 participants who are left. I'll repeat the names: Adil Rashid, Ajay Shankar Jha, Ali Jaber, Anup Upadhyay, Ashutosh, Deepa Mehta, Deepak Varadam, Dr. Rajashekhar, Dr. Pavan, Rohini Shinde, Dr. Shabana, Dr. Shunmugan, Kamlesh Shah, Karan, Krishan Chandra, Kulanthavil, Lenin, Mohanlal Saini, Mohit Jadhav, Payal, Pramotesh, Priya Ranjan, Priyanka, Rajendra, Ramakanta, Ramesh Ji, Varad, Vijay Vadhankar, Virendra Kumar, and Yashwant Kumar. The participants who have already received their certificates are most welcome to leave the meeting room. And I hope the participants, all these 31 participants have already submitted the feedback form and are only waiting for their certificate of participation. Uttam sir is already calculating which all certificates could not be generated because the feedback form has not been received. So we'll have the list in some moments. Last 29 participants left. We already have the list, dear participants. All these participants' certificates could not be generated because their feedback form was not received. If these participants are still there with us, I request them kindly click on the feedback form and submit it to generate your certificate of participation. Adil Rashid, Ali Jaber, Anup Upadhyay, Ashutosh, Bonigi, Pavan Krishna, Rohini Shinde, Dr. Shabana, Shunu Muganathan, Kamlesh Shah, Karan, Krishna Chandra Mishra, Mohammad Khalid, Mohanlal Saini, Mohit Jadhav, Pradeep Kumar. Paridhi, Payal Nagane, Pramutesh, Priya Ranjan, Rajendra Kathal, and Yashwant. These 21 participants' feedback form was not received. Hence, their certificates could not be generated. I understand there are a few internet issues today, so a few of the participants might have been disconnected. But any participant who is still there in the meeting room, still there with us, I request them kindly click on the feedback link, submit the same to generate your certificate of participation. The feedback link has just been shared by Huda sir. Thank you, Paridhi Kaushik, for the wonderful motivation. It is this appreciation from all our attendees that keeps us going for a webinar every week on a new upcoming technology by some experts in the same area. I have last 28 attendees left. I would repeat the name of the participants whose feedback form has not been submitted and their certificates could hence not be generated. Adil Rashid, Ali Jaber, Anup Upadhyay, Ashutosh, Bonege, Pavan Krishna, Rohini Shinde, Dr. Shabana, Shunmuganathan, Kamlesh Shah, Karan, Krishna Chandra Mishra, Mohammad Khalid, Mohanlal Saini, Mohit Jadhav, Pradeep Kumar, Paridhi, Payal, Pramutesh, Priya Ranjan, Rajendra Kathal, and Yashwant. These 21 participants' feedback form has not been received and their certificates could not be generated. I have last 26 attendees left. Out of these 26 attendees, I would be saying the names of the attendees whose certificates could not be generated. Adil Rashid, Anup Upadhyay. Next, we have Dr. Shabana Uroj, Dr. Shunumugam, Kamlesh Shah, Karan, Krishna Chandra Mishra, Mohanlal Saini, Mohit Jadhav, Payal Nagane, Pramutesh, Priya Ranjan, Rajendra Kathal, and Yashwant. All these participants, the certificates could not be generated because the feedback form could not be received. I request if these participants are still there with us, please click on the feedback form, submit it, and generate your certificate of participation. I have the updated list with me. I would be repeating the name of the participants. Last 25 attendees left. Out of these attendees, Ali Jaber, Anup Upadhyay. Next we have Pavan Krishna, Dr. Rohini Shinde, Dr. Shabana Uroj, Karan, Krishna Chandra Mishra, Mohanlal Saini, Mohit Jadhav, Pradeep Kumar, Payal Nagane, Pramutesh, Rajendra Kathal, and Yashwant. If these participants are still connected with us, I request them, please fill the feedback link. If you're facing any problems or issues, you're most welcome to discuss with us. We are there to help you out with your certificate of participation. So if any of these participants is still there with us, please submit the feedback form and generate your certificate of participation.
All the participants are requested to please fill in the feedback form so that the certificate can be generated soon. May I request all the participants, all 23, 22 attendees I can see, please fill up the feedback form soon so that your certificate can be shared by us.
I would again repeat the name of the participants whose feedback was not received and hence their certificate could not be generated. Anup Upadhyay, Pavan Krishna, Rohini Shinde, Dr. Shabana Uroj, Shunmugh Nathan, Karan, Krishna Chandra Mishra, Mohan Lal Saini, Mohit Jadhav, Pradeep Kumar, Payal Nagane, Rajendra Kathal, and Yashwant. These are the last 14 participants whose certificates could not be generated because their feedback has not been received. If these participants are still there with us, I request them, please submit the feedback form and generate your certificate of participation.
Dr. Ritika,
Yes, sir.
we will close this room by 8 p.m.
Okay, sir.
So announce them, those who can fill up the form and get certificate by 8. Well, otherwise we will be closing by 8.
Okay, sir. Dr. Rohini Shinde, the feedback link is already there in the chat window, ma'am. It has been shared multiple times by Professor M.N. Huda, sir. So please click on the chat option. Click on the panelist name, Professor M.N. Huda, and you will be able to see the feedback link. Sir has just shared the feedback link once again. So you can click on that and you can generate your, you can submit the same to generate your certificate of participation. I repeat the name. Last 14 participants whose certificates could not be generated because their feedback has not been received. Anup Upadhyay, Pavan Krishna, Rohini Shinde, Dr. Shabana Uroj, Shunmugh Nathan, Karan, Krishna Chandra Mishra, Mohan Lal Saini, Mohit Jadhav, Pradeep Kumar, Payal Nagane, Rajendra Kathal, and Yashwant. These are the last 14 participants whose certificates could not be generated because their feedback form is not received. If you are still there with us, kindly submit the feedback form and generate your certificate of participation. We'll be closing this room in another 9 minutes at 8 p.m. sharp. So please generate your certificate of participation. Otherwise, you will have to treat this session as a knowledge giving session. I can see last 18 participants are left with us. I would be giving the names of the participants whose feedback form has not been received and thus their certificates could not be generated. If these participants are still connected, I request them please submit the feedback form and generate your certificate of participation. So we have Anup Upadhyay, Dr. Shabana Uroj, Dr. Rohini Shinde, Dr. Pavan Krishna, Karan, Krishna Chandra Mishra. Then we have Mohan Lal Saini, Mohit Jadhav, Pradeep Kumar, Payal Nagane, Rajendra Kathal, and Yashwant Kumar. These participants, if they are still connected, I request them kindly submit the feedback form and generate your certificate of participation. The feedback link has again been shared in the chat window by Professor M.N. Huda, sir. At 8 p.m., we will be closing this meeting room, dear participants. So please click on the link, submit the same to generate your feedback for certificate of participation for this session well in time. I have the updated list of participants with me. Anup Upadhyay, Pavan Krishna, Dr. Rohini Shinde, Dr. Shabana, Dr. Shunmugh Nathan, Karan, Krishna Chandra Mishra, Mohan Lal Saini, Mohit Jadhav, Payal Nagane, Rajendra Kathal, and Yashwant. If these participants are still there, I request all of them, please submit the feedback form and generate your certificate of participation. Another 7 minutes, sharp at 8 p.m., we will be closing this room. Updated list, we have only Anup Upadhyay, Dr. Pravan Krishna, Dr. Shabana, Shunmugh Nathan, Karan, Krishna Chandra Mishra, Mohanlal Saini, Mohit Jadhav, Payal Nagane, Rajendra Kathal, and Yashwant. Last 11 participants whose feedback could not be, whose certificate could not be generated because their feedback form is not received. Dear participants, we will be closing this room at sharp 8 p.m. So if you are still there, please submit the feedback form. Last 11 participants, Anup Upadhyay, Pravan Krishna, Dr. Shabana, Shunmugh Nathan, Karan, Krishna Chandra Mishra, Mohanlal Saini, Mohit Jadhav, Payal Nagane, Rajendra Kathal, and Yashwant. Last 5 minutes, dear participants. Please submit the feedback form and generate your certificate of participation. At 8 p.m., we will be closing this meeting. I once again request last 11 participants. Thank you, Yashwant Kumar sir. It was wonderful having you. We hope to have you back next again on 19th of Feb with our next webinar. Okay, Yashwant Kumar sir has submitted his feedback form. Sir, within a few minutes, you shall be receiving your certificate. Last 10 participants whose certificates could not be generated because feedback form has not been received. Anup Upadhyay, Dr. Pravan Krishna, Dr. Shabana Uroj, Shunmugh Nathan, Karan, Krishna Chandra Mishra, Mohanlal Saini, Mohit Jadhav, Payal Nagane, Rajendra Kathal, and Yashwant. Yashwant Kumar sir has just submitted the feedback form, so he'll soon be receiving the certificate. Rest all participants, if you are still there, please submit your feedback form and generate your certificate of participation. We shall be closing the room today at 8 p.m. sharp. So after that, you will not be able to generate your certificate. Thank you, Yashwant Kumar sir. You have already received your certificate. It was wonderful having you. You can now leave the meeting room. We hope to have you back next on 19th Feb. Thank you, Yashwant Kumar sir. Last, I repeat the name of the participants. Anup Upadhyay, Dr. Shabana Uroj, Shunmugh Nathan, Karan, Krishna Chandra Mishra, Mohit Jadhav, Payal Nagane, Rajendra Kathal. This is the last list of participants. Last 8 participants whose certificates could not be generated. So, dear participants, please, if you are still there, submit the feedback form and generate your certificate of participation. Dr. Shabana Oroj is not in India, so she was attending our webinar from somewhere outside. She is unable to fill the feedback form. Dear participants, it is already 8 p.m. Last 8 participants whose feedback form has not been received and their certificates could not be generated. I again repeat their names. Anup Upadhyay, Dr. Shabana ma'am is not there in India, so she is unable to fill the link. Shunmughnathan, Karan Krishnachandra Mishra, Mohit Jadhav, Payal Nagane, and Rajendra Kathal. Dear participants, we are closing this room in no time. So please, if these 7 participants are still there, please click the feedback form and submit and generate your certificate of participation. Anup Upadhyay, Shunmughnathan, Karan Krishnachandra Mishra, Mohit Jadhav, Payal Nagane, and Rajendra Kathal. Sir, can we close the room now?
Oh, yeah, Dr. Ritika. Now close it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Good night, sir. Dear
Good night to-
participants, thank you so much for being part of today's wonderful webinar. I hope to have you all back next week on 19th Feb with another webinar of ours. So thank you so much. Good night.